Welcome back. What a night at the ballpark. Huge crowd. Giants on song. Heritage night as well. We always have our legend in the booth, Craig Watts and Scott Pratt. But Scott, you've got some mates and other legends to talk to tonight.
Well, he's a dear mate, and I've had the pleasure of working with him through the Super League. He's the commissioner of the Super League. He has some other roles in baseball. We'll talk about them as well. But he also is a Cats medalist back in 74, 75. It's the great Colin Alexander. Absolute pleasure, Cole, to have you here.
Pleasure to be with you.
So we're just interesting thing. I was looking through some notes, and I think from the record, there's only Phil and Colin Alexander, the only two brothers to win Cats medals. Am I correct in that?
I wouldn't have a clue.
Well, let's say I am.
All right, yes, it sounds like it. Sounds good to me, Scott.
And for those people that don't remember or don't know of Colin Alexander, he was a first baseman and a power hitter. I've got some great memories. Phil, Adelaide, South Australia played Japan at Footy Park.
Footy Park?
Yeah. And this guy smashed one out over, they were sort of in the members' end,
yes.
And he's hit it over the other side out of the field.
Into what would now be the Crows HQ, probably.
Yeah, smashed it. Do you remember that, Cole? One of
vaguely.
many.
Long time ago.
So when you're talking about someone that can hit a ball, this guy can hit it a long, long way. So we got one of the greats of baseball sitting here next to us.
I did have the ability to, or the fortune to use aluminium bats.
But what was the secret apart from that?
Well, just see ball, hit ball.
I love it. Keep it
There's
simple, right?
Keep it simple, stupid, yep. That's the one.
Yes, and you, so as we go through play-by-play by Phil.
It's a 2-3-4 Geelong career lineups. Yoho Chol down 1-2 in the count here. Unsworth, who's retired his last 7, has settled into the contest.
So you started off at Glenelg?
Started off at Glenelg.
Won your Caps medal there?
Yeah, I was a pitcher.
Yep.
And if I wasn't pitching, obviously I played third or first, just depending on where we needed the spot. And threw my arm out, went to Western Australia at the end of that season, and to coach a team over there. And after about a 6 or 7 week break, Glenelg had an end of season trip to Port Lincoln, and we played against, because Glenelg used to host the country carnival.
Yep.
We played a game against the Eyre Peninsula, and I didn't want to, but I had to pitch because that was good for the country guys.
Everyone wanted to see you pitch.
Yeah,
yep.
And anyway, I left my arm in Port Lincoln. I by the time I got to Perth, I could barely roll a hoop down a hill. It's an injury that today the Olympic doctor at the time, a guy called Ken Fitch, was the big sports medicine guru in Western Australia, and today it would be a 3 to 6 month operation. Back then it was you'd be out for at least 1 year, and there's a 50% chance you won't be able to, it won't work. So I decided
no
not to have it
operation.
done. No operations. But fortunately I could play the game I loved because I could hit, and I loved it.
That was Quan Cron Min, grounded to Liam Spence at third and 2 away. So you're doing great. You're making this inning go very quick. 2 up, 2 down. Keep it going.
So, Cole, you won your Caps medal in 74, 75. Were you a pitcher in that era?
I was a pitcher in that era, yes.
And hitting for yourself?
Yes, oh yeah.
How did that roll?
Actually, the DH didn't come in until a bit later. Back in probably late 70s.
When you did your arm, you brought in the DH.
Yeah, I brought it in. Yeah, I wish. No, mate. It came in. If Don Rice, the great Don Rice, said that if he had to play and there was a DH, he wouldn't have pitched.
Is that right?
Yeah, and I would have been the same. I loved him. I loved the challenge of pitching, even when my arm was gone, I love throwing a few knuckleballs and curveballs and try to get it out.
Just a little grounder to Martinez, 3 up for 3 down.
Well, I do remember you in the version of the Super League out at Nord Oval, getting on the hill and throwing a couple of knuckleballs down in your time. Now, I'll just, Phil, jump into this era, 74, 75. I'll throw some names in this group. Don Rice, Greg Elkson, Kevin Greatrix, Dave Mundy, and a lot of them were scooting around Glenelg, and there's the other guy, Phil Alexander. There's a crew that were running around with this guy that to win a Caps medal in amongst all these guys is arguably a massive achievement for anyone.
And just quickly to clarify for those who might not know, Caps medal is for the most valuable player in the South Australian Baseball League, and back in your era, that was a huge award to win.
It was, and it hasn't lost its meaning. It's still a very much sought after trophy.
It certainly is.
Perhaps the fact that a lot of our best players don't play because they're playing in the National League. There's not that many of them now, but back in the early years of the National League, there'd be 7 or 8 of your best players weren't actually playing 3 or 4 months of your season. So, but that allowed other people in, and the competition, the South Australian State League is still the best league in Australia, and if you win the Caps medal, you're a bloody good baseballer.
Yeah, you certainly are. And tonight for you, Cole, coming out here with all the guys, and you got to throw the first pitch, and that was on behalf of yourself and Phil as your brother as well, and the Alexander family, which have given baseball some great memories. And your time playing with Phil, and then you two sort of parted ways and became enemies.
Yeah, well, we did. I mean, he was a huge influence early on. He went away with Australia. He's just a mandatory member of the Australian team.
Well, let's just jump in on that, because there is that chat that we've had before. Phil Alexander is the only player to play every position for Australia.
Wow.
Senior baseball, not juniors. This is the sort of athlete this guy was in his day.
He could do everything. He had a beautiful arm. He could run as quick as any sprinter, I feel.
Well, you were saying the story
of
when he got all those base hits, infield base hits.
Infield base hits, won the batting trophy for the Claxton Shield, picked up 5 or 6 infield hits. And when you've got the best infielders hanging around not far away, it's something to do. And some of them would be routine outs in a normal, certainly with me running anyway.
It's a 1-2-3 in the Giants order. We are at the bottom of the 4th, and Adelaide are rolling, leading 6-0. Ward so far a home run at the very first pitch, got everyone up and running. And he's trying to go, well, maybe not for number 2. That's going to be a fair hit, and that's going to be, as Ian Day used to say on the Giants broadcast, a 2-bagger to Nick Ward.
Good old Daisy. And we have the great Colin Alexander with us here tonight, and having a great chat with him. And it's Heritage Night, and it's back to the Giants days, and great to see the Claxton Shield guys, Giants guys, Adelaide Blight guys. And Cole, your role now, where are you in baseball?
Well, I'm the tied up with the Super League, as you very much are yourself. More on an ideas, bouncing ideas off of the commissioner. Yeah.
Come on now.
You're
the boss.
All the commissioner means is you're old and you don't do much. But that Super League is very important to baseball in South Australia. It fills that gap between what we're seeing out here tonight and club ball. There's a whole list of guys that have gone on and played Super League, then gone on and played Giants, and then gone on and been signed to the Major League or to Major League clubs. Guys who have been signed to Canberra and other National League teams. So that is very, very important.
And you played in the 2 versions as well, didn't you?
In the early version.
Yeah, in the early version, yeah.
Yeah, that was the game that cricket stole, was what we used to have, which was the grand final. We won the initial grand final. It's the Ansett Cardinals. That's how long we're going back. And there was 10,000 people at the grand final, and Channel 10 with Peter Marker and brother Phil were broadcasting it live at the same time. Yeah,
he was outstanding in the commentary box, old Phil. I've got some footage of that, and I think on that night you might have put one on the RSL.
No, not quite the RSL, but it was far enough to win the game, which made everyone happy.
Yeah, still loud when it hits that roof.
So you also part of the ABL. You're involved in the tribunal.
Yes.
What's your role in there?
Well, it's the same. I do that for the SABL as well. The Korean coach is a chap. I think 3 times this year we've had to slap him on the wrist.
Oh, really?
Yeah, he doesn't like some of the umpiring decisions.
Well, that's not going to change after tonight.
No, I would like to have had the benefit of the TV this evening for the play at home and the line drive down the right field line. But I do that, and that just sort of keeps me. That and the Super League keeps me involved, and we don't have any really bad arguments or brawls or anything like that. I think, and one of the problems with the Korean manager is by the time the message gets interpreted by the interpreter and they have it, it
cools things down a bit, doesn't it?
It does, yeah. And but it seems to be the same blokes every time, so they're going to change the rules to try and get that out of the game, because you don't need it.
No, you don't. You're right.
It's one part of the game, as a relative newcomer, the manager deliberately getting themselves ejected, that still I don't totally get. I understand the protection of the player side of it, but okay, you protected the player and you still want to go on and have an early night.
Yeah, well, umpires do that to you, though.
That's a long shot to left. Fair or foul? Foul. But not by a lot.
Just took it around that as it went down that left field line, jumping all over that fastball.
Full count for Courier. Might just stay with the game here for a moment. No, well, we have Ward, who's made his way to second after the 2-bagger. We're at the bottom of the 4th. Giants have put 6 on the board, have out-hit Geelong Courier 7-2, have committed 1 error, and have had, look, I'll be honest, a couple of hometown decisions in that first Geelong Courier inning.
Yeah, it did open it up for the Adelaide Giants as they took advantage of that.
So let's see what happens here with the payoff pitch. Skied up.
How was the 3rd strike on the guy that hit the ball down the line that was called foul?
Yeah.
How was that?
Yeah.
With the naked eye, it looked inside a little.
Look, you know, with the naked eye, it's always, we talk about the difference here in the commentary box, Cole, of real time and replays. We've got the beauty of the replays. Yeah. The umpires are on real time.
But, flies out to short. Up comes Ricks and Wingrove, and a good chance for you gentlemen to have a chat, because we've got a pitchers conference.
So a little bit more about the brotherly love between you and Phil, and a shout out to Phil. He's been a big part of baseball in South Australia and Australia, and a legend of the game. And been a pleasure to have him involved when I was coming through the Adelaide Giants, and not only knowledge-wise, but ability to keep a lid on things and keep things under control. And for viewers, talk us through your take on Phil
well, he could, as I say, in a baseball sense, he could do everything. Run, throw. He could pitch. Obviously, he caught for many years.
So he pitched, and then catching became his home.
Oh no, he was always more an all-rounder. I mean, there was the year I went to Perth. I'd done all the pitching the year before that, and I'd done all the pitching the year before that. And so when I went to Perth, there was no one coming through, so he became the team pitcher that year.
Right.
And they got into the finals.
Yeah. Okay.
So he could just do anything, but his best position was catching, because he also had a baseball brain.
Yeah.
And when you were talking about those guys that you were talking about before, Mundy, Great Trex, Adrian Pearce, Mal McLaughlin, you're talking about some absolute power hitters, and he'd be saying things to them as they walk in the box, as he always did, and he would also know how to call, and he would call things that they wouldn't think you're going to call, and it was good.
Just very quickly, new pitcher for Geelong Korea is number it's number 54, Osei Hun. We'll give you the line on Park Yun-chul. He's got an inherited runner at the moment, so we'll wait to see how that pans out. But Rickson Wingrove comes to the plate.
Thanks, Phil, and you make a good point there, Cole. We've talked about it before of Chris Adamson's got to make up the pick who's going to be the catcher for the final series, and the importance of the pitcher-catcher relationship, and the catcher having that knowledge of, and you led right into that beautifully, where you talk about Phil knowing so much about the game and hitters and working well with pitchers.
Yeah, he'd always have a game plan for particular batters, and the obvious plan is try and get them out.
Yep.
But it's not always trying to strike them out. I mean, in fact, if you strike a bloke out, a good hitter out, you're lucky.
Yeah.
The idea is to get him to not hit one 450 feet somewhere, or to hit a very nice two-hopper to second base. But that all comes from setting them up for that particular pitch. And that's the catcher's job.
And again, it comes back to, we've talked about that earlier tonight, about the importance of the pitchers throwing their strikes and not necessarily being the one to strike them all out.
No, absolutely not. And you've got a fantastic field behind you, particularly at this level. You should go your hardest to try and let them hit, but don't let them hit too hard.
That's right.
And the other thing that I didn't mind a guy making an error as long as he was having a go.
Yeah.
If you weren't having a go and you made an error, that was different. So I get a bit narky. Even at the cricket, you see the bowler drop his bottom lip because someone's thrown himself sideways
Had a
to
dive
take
for
a
it.
catch.
Yep.
And he spills it, and what are you doing? Give me a break.
I like your point on the local baseball and where you see baseball at the moment. Everyone does sort of reach back to their day and where their day was at. Big swing and a miss there by Rickson Wingrove. Your feedback right now on where things are at in baseball?
Well, I mean, back in our day, we didn't have a lot of opposition on a Wednesday night. There was nothing else to do. There was no cricket. There was no
internet.
Nothing. Yeah, that's right. What are you going to do? We'll go out to Norwood Oval. Now, Norwood Oval is just the perfect amphitheatre for baseball.
Yep.
You've got people almost sitting on home plate, and it was, and people came out there. We put on a good game. The standard was very, very good. I don't think it was any better than today, but I think that the fact that there was more people there, probably more atmosphere, and that helped it quite a bit, I think.
Just to let you know that Wingrove flew out there to right. Sunshine Oi. Quincy Lattimore comes to the plate. The Giants with 2 out. Nick Wood, who led off with a double, still there at second base. First pitch taken, 1-0 count.
So I guess from our point of view, Cole, it's really important for us to always remember our heritage and the tradition we're building with the Adelaide Giants. And Nathan Davis and Eric have done a great job creating the heritage round, and again to get guys like yourself. It would have been great tonight. You saw, there's Greenie and Les Barrett and Ron Chandler, and to see all those guys come back.
Fred Medley, 88-year-old.
Yeah, how's that?
Yeah,
hey?
fantastic.
With the hat, the
blazer
hat on. That's just awesome to see. So from that point of view, where you sit watching where baseball's going and Adelaide Giants, and there's some exciting things happening in the organisation.
Well, look, we basically, going back to Phil, I mean, we did our coaching before he made an Australian team, went away to Korea or Japan. We got taught how to play baseball out of books.
Yeah.
And he came back with quite a bit of knowledge, because the Japanese would be coaching the opposition, if you like.
Right, okay.
And,
so he went away to play against them, and he came back. They taught him while he was away.
And he brought back a lot. So that was the first coaching I actually got of any description. I was probably 18 or 19.
Wow.
And the thing that guys have got today is they've got all the elite programs that...
There's a shot that's eaten up third base. This is going to bring run number 7. Nick Ward scampers around from second. It is 7-0 to the Adelaide Giants.
She is blowing out, isn't she? And that's a very good point. Baseball back in the early days, there was no material. It was just out of the book.
Absolutely
right?
none. The kids today, they've got your high performance programs. You've got clubs that got really good club coaches. I mean, basically, back in my day, all the coaches did was basically organise practice.
Yep.
Pick the team and tell you when to bunt and when to hit and run, and that was it. There was no actual coaching, because you play on Saturday, you train on Sunday morning, and that was it for the week.
Train on Sunday morning?
Yeah. Well, it was winter ball.
Yeah, that's right. And that's a very good point.
Well, that's it.
Right?
1969 they changed to summer baseball, and then it became Tuesday, Thursday trainings, and because you could do things.
So back in that winter ball, I mean, it's still winter ball now, but obviously winter was the main time, with a lot of cricketers that would go from one to the other.
Baseball actually generated out of the need for the cricketers to do something in winter, and baseball was the way it was the way out for them to still keep their arms going and keep their eye in.
Well, not to name drop, but there's a few guys that came out of Glenelg and Ian Chappell, who you've got a very good relationship with, Cole.
Well, they are just Greg and Ian. Ian in particular, he was an All-Australian. Greg played state, but Sir Donald Bradman said, "Right, lad, you want to play cricket or baseball?"
Is that right? Gave the ultimatum.
Simple as that. I won't tell you what Ian told Sir Donald, but Greg just said yes, sir, no, sir, as you would expect Greg to do.
That's right. And of course, Ian would challenge it.
Well, he just didn't think it was right. And at the time, it probably wasn't, because the cricketers weren't making any money.
But it was good practice for him, right?
What baseball was.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And we've obviously seen that with the one-day cricket, and you now see before any game of cricket, what's out on the field is you see baseball gloves are everywhere, and they're teaching them how to throw and what to do. And
Well, there's a guy called Mike Young back in the 90s, I would say. He was the
Queensland
Claxton Shield coach.
Yep.
And he was an American, went through the college system, played a bit, coached a lot, and he ended up the Australian fielding coach in cricket.
Not a bad gig, was it?
Oh, it was
and
good.
They won the 50.
They did, yeah.
50-50 it was back then, wasn't it? The one-day cricket.
Yeah, and that was revolutionary back in the time with the pyjamas.
Yeah, it was, wasn't it?
It was, absolutely.
Yep.
Well, cricket, with this Big Bash, they stole what baseball, the big thing with baseball was it was quick.
That's
and,
right.
You always got a result and there was something happening. Like tonight's a great game. I mean, it's fantastic that Nathan and Eric have gone to all the trouble that they've gone to. And we've actually got the Giants out there looking like the old Giants and playing like the old Giants. What, we up 7-0?
Yeah. So
One last night, 7. And it's just a fantastic atmosphere, and I love it. I think it's fantastic.
And what I love about tonight, personally, is we've got the three facets. We've got the legends, yourself obviously included. We've got the present, playing for a playoff berth and a home semi. And we've also got the future. There are so many kids here tonight. We've got the entire span of the South Australian baseball community. One place, one night.
yeah, we do. And one thing you mentioned, Cole, is when you get a crowd like this, you've got to entertain them, and you certainly were one of those, and you did it.
Martinez hits it to left. It's going to be playable, possibly. Oh, man, no, it's a drop. It's a drop, and Martinez is on first. Thinks about second. That scores the run. And if it wasn't all falling apart, Lattimore has scored for Adelaide. It's 8-0. And it's turning into a great night for the hometown team, but starting to be a bit of a Barry Crocker for the visitors.
Yeah, it certainly is. And when something like that, it just snowballs, and you need someone to stop the bleeding, and an opportunity to take a catch there, that really does hurt.
Now, you're a man who has to make executive decisions often in the commentary booth, Colin, and you get the option of the replay. We talk about error, ordinary effort. I'm not sure. I reckon that might have bounced.
Why wouldn't you get dirty?
That's right.
Yeah, that's not an error. That bounced before he got there. So.
That is an error of effort.
Yes.
Okay.
Yep,
You're
you're
saying he didn't get there, but he should have got there.
He should have died.
Well, at that point in time, the runner's still going to score either way, right?
Yeah.
But
And you just stop something. You stop the momentum. And Adelaide Giants right now have got some massive momentum.
this is turning into a great long innings for the chat. Heritage night here at the ballpark. Scott Pratt is the interview master, working hard.
Yeah, we've had a few come through the booth, and it's great to have Cole come through and basically here as part of the Alexander family. Him and the great Phil unfortunately can't be with us. I ran into him in Foodland Stirling this week.
He told me that. Yeah.
And, great to see him, and a big part of the Adelaide Giants and a big part of Baseball SA.
Scoreboard here says 7. The bug says 8. I think it's 8. Car pops up. Left field a chance to redeem. Kwon Min does so. Takes the out, and that will do it for the Giants in the fourth, but not before they add some more and take an 8-run lead. Scotty?
Yeah, thanks, Cole. I appreciate you coming through. To you and Phil, I want to thank you for everything you've done for baseball in South Australia and Australia. You are legends of the game, and it's an absolute pleasure. Thanks, mate.
Thanks, mate, for having me, and let's hope Big Phil's up and about and can get here next year.
Yes.
Thank you very much, Colin Alexander. We will be back.